Hello, world. This is the Know Your Place podcast, and we're on episode 55. And I'm your host, Charles Altendorf. And on this week, I want to talk about something sort of on the branch of mental mapping, or a concept in geography known as mental mapping, but taking it to a different niche, if you will, or one that I haven't heard discussed much. So, on this week's episode, I wanted to talk about logos. Generally corporate logos, but there's sort of. I'm not sure how many people do this. This is probably a thing that's uniquely weird about myself. But when I see a logo of something or somewhere, like on the side of a building, and I'll get more into it I'll get more into it with more specific examples in a minute. But when I see a logo or something, I almost have like a deep mental reaction. And I've been told I have a somewhat photographic memory for maps. So when I look at a map, I can tell somebody how to get there after looking at it once, even though I've never been there. But like when I look at logos for things, it's like an image of what all that is imprinted in my mind, like a not to get weird or Star Trekky, but sort of like how they talk about the mind meld. Well, my mind isn't being melded, but like it's like an instant imprintation into my mind of sort of what that means and how much space it takes up. So to give you an example, okay, we'll start very basic here. The hospital in the county where I live is called Hardin Memorial Health, okay, HMH. And when I see their logo, we just had a son, so I was over there. Uh, Whenever I see their logo, having walked in their hospital, I think of instantly in my mind, it's like the whole space of the hospital campus has been imprinted in my mind. Also because I saw it on a map once. Okay, so when I look at it, I think of this however many square feet or square miles in my mind of them. But that is kind of fluid too, because they also, have several offices around the county. So you have these sort of satellite things too that are part of that imprintation in my mind. So I don't know if this is really abstract or not, but it's my podcast and I do what I want to. Um, when I see that, it's like I'm hit with a rush in my mind all at once of what this concept means. It means these buildings and wings are all together part of this, and that's what the hospital means. And it really takes hold for something like a hospital where you have like a main campus and then some satellite things. I'll talk about some other things here in a minute that are different concepts, but I don't know it's something about something that's a campus, and it kind of just is like, what does it mean to be this? This is what it means to be this hospital, these walls, these buildings that have been built together over time, this parking lot. Yeah, so another one that's another thing that does that for me is universities, obviously, right? Because they also have sort of a main campus. I went to the University of Kentucky, as you all know, and when I see their image anywhere, I'm instantly hit with this rush of, well, here's where the northern boundary of the university was, here's the southern boundary, and here's all these buildings on it, and where I spend time in, and I get these instant memories brought back of particular buildings, like the Whitehall Classroom Building is this old building on there with all these classrooms that's still used today. It was built in the '60s, and I all this stuff is just racing. Sometimes it just races in my head so fast that like I'll just be caught in almost like a trance for like half a minute or so. It's really crazy, and I don't know what it is about logos of these certain places that just hits me that hard. Like it's not supposed to hit you that hard. I mean, it's just a logo. It's meant to identify the place. Obviously, they want you to identify the place as that, but like it really affects me. I'll look at it and I'll just be like pondering the concept for a half a minute. It's very bizarre. Or Milwaukee's airport. That was where I was born, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They have this MKE logo, and whenever I see MKE, I instantly have all the memories I have in the concourse and the size of it and the museum in there and different places and the gates that I've been to. All of a sudden, that just rushes into my mind, and I think of where what it looks like on the map and where these roads go around it, and it's. I mean, it's so crazy. I feel like this is some kind of really lunatic thing, but it's just how my mind operates. So, um, another one that's sort of interesting to think about is banks. And my wife actually brought this up because the first bank she worked at was one called Whitaker Bank, and it's here in Kentucky. And it when its logo literally has the state of Kentucky on it, but the founders are actually from Eastern Kentucky, which is very strange. Most of the big businesses in Kentucky are not from Eastern Kentucky, and so when you have this mental image of them, though, you think of them in the main city, Lexington, where the college is, and you think of this like it's just so crazy. You have a concept of this is the Bank of Kentucky. Even if they were to branch out and move somewhere else, you would still obviously think of it that way, and you would think of sort of this eastern to central Kentucky connection, not so much to do with the rest of the state. And you just get this mental image of the type of customers and business and transactions that would be done in a bank in this area. Or when we were in Bloomington, Indiana, there was this bank called People's Bank, and it was just there, and you think of it as this like hometown bank, or then I actually bank with a larger bank, and you would think of them as like this corporate structure, but based out of their original roots. And these logos, they just like I said, they just hit me hard. And another one I wanted to talk about, of course, is the fast food chain Culvers. And why I want to say this is interesting is if you look at Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's or some of these other ones, their whole point was not to appear regional because they wanted to be national. But Culver's, because they're new and they were founded in the 90s, decided, hey, we're going to just be Wisconsin. We're going to be a Wisconsin chain. So their logo has the state of Wisconsin on it. And now they are national. They're all over the place. And yet they're still, you can't remove them from the state of Wisconsin. That's their style. That's their branding, and it just gives you, it's just so crazy, it's crazy to think of it that way. And it's it's an interesting concept. But I guess there's some other like let's see, if I could think of another logo. Obviously, I grew up rooting for the Green Bay Packers, and they of course have many national fans, but they started in Green Bay. But when I look at their logo, I don't even think of the city of Green Bay. Because I've actually been to Lambeau Field a few times. I call it the mothership. I think of the Packers when I see that logo. I do think of the stadium and the campus around it with the buildings and the hall and its museum and the practice facilities and my memories there of going with my friend and catching a practice one day by accident. I mean, that's what I think of, and it's great. But it's crazy because I'll look at that logo and I'll be hit with that rush. Again, like I said, it just rushes over me. These The whole space like enters my mind, flows out of it. Another one is sort of when I think of Penn State, I think of the town of College Station, which I've never actually been in. I've driven by, but like I've seen it on a map a ton of times, and it's a very distinct geographical area compared to the areas around it. So whenever I see their logo, I don't think of anything except their campus, much like I do with UK. And it's I don't know why. The weird thing is though, it only is some logos that really affect me this deeply. Like when I see other logos of local things, more urban colleges like Cincinnati and Xavier, I don't necessarily think of their campuses as strongly. And I mean, with UK, it's obvious because I went to college there, but you'd think, other places like Penn State, it wouldn't be that way. But I think it's because those urban colleges are so intertwined in the cities. And UK is in a big city, it's 300,000, but like Cincinnati's been a big city much longer than Lexington. So like the university there's while it does have a main campus area, it's very intertwined with the city. So it's almost like it doesn't have the distinctness as much. Like UK, there are parts. I mean, there used to be like walls around it. Like it's it's very. It's still if you look at a map of Lexington, you can still very obviously see the hole where the University of Kentucky is. If you didn't even turn on any of the buildings or anything, it's that's what I mean. It's like an instant imprintation of place on your mind. These certain logos, and it's interesting. It's a very interesting thing, a concept. One that I think is an interesting route to explore with this too is in politics, because when you see sort of well, back in the day, obviously the Nazis, not to bring up a terrible subject, but they were the kings of doing that, right? They versus their movement. There were sort of other movements like theirs, but the most popular one in Germany, obviously, it was in Germany. But now it's gone worldwide, obviously, since then. And when you see that logo somewhere, it has an instant invitation on your mind. Granted, it's a negative concept. I don't want to say it's a good one, but it gives you this instant imprintation on your mind of what it is. And you think of the space of old Germany, and which is crazy because they weren't even from Berlin. Most of them started from Munich. So it's very interesting. And I saw another one. This African leader, his name was Sankara or something, and I think it was a country in West Africa. And you know, he when he started gaining power and expanding out, and he took over places, they would slap up his logo everywhere, right? And that automatically, conveys an image. It does. It imprints that this is his expanding territory. It's so interesting. Logos are probably, some of the most powerful tools that the human mind has ever created. And I think people really underestimate how powerful that can be, you know. So yeah, that's sort of the things I think of. Is sort of this tie in that a logo has with area. Even you know, uh, even the best ones are ones that because most of the time, sometimes they draw in part of the place, and that really makes it stand out when it's a regional kind of company. But one where it's like not even it could be of anywhere, but it's just because the place has such a identity to it, instantly you're drawn in. So let me know what you think in the comments section. If you think I'm crazy, or what, if you think this mental imagery thing is a head jerk. But let me know if there's any sort of logos that give you a certain concept of place when you see them. Anyway, thanks for listening.